The great palace of Velthora shone like a diamond under the twin suns. Tall crystal towers touched the sky, and silver walkways floated above the ground. The alien world was known for beauty, peace, and pride. Inside the throne hall, alien nobles from many stars had gathered. Tall creatures with bright skin, long hair, and golden robes stood around the room. In the center, on a wide silver chair, sat Queen Salira, ruler of Velthora. Her eyes were calm, but her presence was powerful. Beside her stood her daughter, Princess Zilari, tall, graceful, and proud. Her skin shimmered with blue light, and her voice was smooth like music. She was known across the stars for her beauty, her strong will, and her sharp tongue. Today was a special day. The Galactic Peace Summit was about to begin. Aliens from many worlds had come, including one species that most nobles still look down on: humans. They were Deathworlders, creatures born on a harsh planet called Earth. The nobles often called them brutes in armor or wild apes in space. No one truly respected them, and now one human was walking into the hall. The doors opened. Guards stepped aside. A single man entered. He wore dark armor, nothing shiny or rich, just strong, clean, and quiet. His face was calm. His eyes were focused. A long scar crossed his jaw, and short dark hair sat on his head. He was not big like alien warriors, but his steps were steady and full of strength. Commander Jack Raynor of Earth. He bowed low before the Queen. "Your Majesty," he said simply. The room was silent. Then Zilari laughed, loud and clear. "Is that the famous human warrior?" she said, loud enough for all to hear. "He looks more like a tired miner from some frozen rock." The nobles laughed. Some covered their mouths politely, but many chuckled openly. Zilari stepped down from the royal platform and walked slowly around Jack, like a judge inspecting a strange beast. "Where is your gold, human?" she asked. "Where is your royal crest, your noble crown? Or are humans too poor to shine?" Jack stayed, quiet. Zilari smiled wider. "Or perhaps your kind doesn't understand honor. Do you even know what a peace summit means?" Jack raised his eyes and looked at her. "I know peace," he said softly. "I've bled for it." His words made some nobles stop laughing, but Zilari only raised an eyebrow. "Bled? How dramatic! Did you cut your hand while eating your strange food?" More laughter followed. Jack didn't speak again. He simply bowed once more to the Queen and stepped aside, standing silently near the wall. Not angry, not proud, just still. Queen Salira said nothing during the exchange. Her face was unreadable. "Let the summit begin," she said at last. That night, the palace grew quiet. The stars outside sparkled. The moons of Velthora floated calmly. Princess Zilari stood in her private balcony, enjoying the breeze. She smiled to herself. "That human, so dull," she whispered. "Why would the Queen even allow him to attend?" But then she heard soft footsteps. She turned and saw her mother. Queen Salira walked past her and looked up at the stars. Her long silver robe flowed gently in the wind. Zilari bowed, surprised. "Mother, you're not resting?" The Queen didn't answer right away. She stared at one point in the sky. Then she whispered something. Zilari leaned closer. "Did you say something, Mother?" Queen Salira nodded slowly. "I said, Terra," she whispered. "Earth. I remember it well," Zilari frowned. "Why would you remember that place?" The Queen didn't reply. Instead, she walked away, leaving her daughter confused and curious. The next morning, Princess Zilari went about her duties, but her mind kept returning to the word her mother spoke. Terra. She had never heard her mother speak of Earth with that kind of voice before. It wasn't anger. It wasn't disgust. It sounded like memory or even respect. Later that day, Zalari asked one of the royal servants, "Where is the human staying?" "In the lower guest wing, Princess," the servant replied. "Room 17, near the garden quarters." Zalari raised an eyebrow. The lower wing? That was far from the main guests. Almost an insult. Why did Jack accept such a place? Most nobles would have refused. Her curiosity grew. That evening, she decided to walk by the lower guest wing, just to see. She wore a simple royal cloak, her long hair tied up, no guards, no servants. She passed quiet halls and glowing gardens. Finally, she reached room 17. She paused outside the door. Then she heard voices. Inside, Jack was speaking. And someone else. Her mother. Zalari quickly hid behind a nearby pillar. Through a small energy window, she saw the Queen standing inside Jack's room. She wasn't angry. She wasn't giving orders. She was talking kindly, like an old friend. Jack was sitting, his armor removed, a healing patch on his shoulder. He looked tired but respectful. "Your Majesty," he said, "you didn't have to visit." "I did," the Queen replied. "After all these years, it still weighs on me." Jack smiled. "A little." "You did what you could. I knew the risks." The Queen touched his shoulder gently. "They never knew, Jack. They don't understand." "They don't need to," Jack said. "But maybe they should," she whispered. Then she looked down. Her voice was softer now. "I never forgot what you did for us. For me. For my people." Zalari froze. What did Jack do? Why was her mother speaking to him like this? The Queen stepped back. "Rest well, Commander. Tomorrow we speak again." Jack stood and bowed. "As you wish, my Queen." The Queen left the room and walked down the hallway. Zalari quickly turned and walked away before she could be seen. Her heart was racing. Her mind was full of questions. What truth was hidden here? Why did her royal mother, who never bent before anyone, speak with such respect to a human? That night, Zalari couldn't sleep. She sat at her desk, thinking hard. Finally, she opened her royal tablet and searched the archives. Most records were open, but when she searched for human war history, many files were locked, classified, only for high royal authority. She hesitated. Then she used her personal royal code. Her mother had given it to her long ago. The files opened. Old videos. War reports. 1. File caught her eye. Operation Final Flame, Velthora Sector. She opened it. A shaky recording began. Blurred images, explosions, screaming, alien civilians running, Velthorian soldiers crying for help. Then, a human ship entered the scene. It moved fast, too fast. One human fighter dropped into the chaos. Blade in one hand, shield in the other. He fought like a storm. No backup, no fear. Then she saw his face. Jack, but younger. His armor burned. His blood flowed. But he never stopped. He saved 20 civilians. He carried 2 children out of fire. He stood over a wounded Velthorian officer, fighting off 3 enemies alone. The final moment showed him kneeling, exhausted, as alien ships retreated. Then the screen went dark. Zalari sat frozen. This was the man she mocked? This was the one she laughed at? She felt ashamed. The next morning, Zalari stood in the throne room again. Jack entered, quiet as before. But this time she didn't laugh. She didn't smile. She didn't speak. She just watched him, with new eyes. And behind her, Queen Cyalara smiled very softly, like a mother who knew her daughter had just taken the first step toward truth. Princess Zalari sat alone in her chamber. The glowing screen before her still showed the last frame of the war video. The human warrior, Commander Jack Rayner, kneeling among smoke and fire, his armor cracked, his body covered in blood. She could not look away. Her hands trembled slightly. The video was real. The documents were real. The stories, hidden for years, were all there in the royal archives. And now everything had changed. She, Princess Zalari of Velthora, had mocked a man who once saved thousands of her people. She had laughed at the warrior, who had stood between her pregnant mother and death during the last battle of the Old War. She touched the screen gently. "How could I have been so blind?" she whispered. Later that day, she walked the palace halls slowly, thinking about what she had seen. The nobles still smiled and whispered about politics. The other alien guests still looked down at the humans as if nothing had changed. And Jack, he simply walked among them, silent, calm, and invisible to their prideful eyes. But Zalari saw him differently now. She followed him quietly through the halls. He never noticed. He moved alone, always alert, but never rude. In the training garden, he practiced in silence. No fancy moves. Just simple, perfect strikes with a wooden staff. Controlled, powerful, efficient. She watched from behind a silver pillar. Suddenly, a young palace servant ran into the garden. The boy looked lost and scared. He held a small package and looked. Around with wide eyes, Jack turned to him. "Are you lost?" he asked gently. The boy nodded. Yes, sir. I was supposed to deliver this to the West Wing, but I don't know the way." Jack smiled kindly. "I'll show you." He knelt beside the boy, gave him water, and walked with him across the halls. No one saw. No one thanked him. But Zalari followed quietly, her heart growing heavy. He didn't act like a proud hero. He acted like a guardian. That night, Zalari made a decision. She would speak to her mother. No more silence. No more guessing. She entered the Queen's private chamber, where only family was allowed. Queen Salira stood by a large window, staring at the stars. "Mother," Zalari said. The Queen turned slowly. Her eyes were calm, but deep. "You've been watching him," she said, not asking but knowing. Salari nodded. "I saw the archive. I saw what he did." Queen Salira sat on a silver bench and gestured for her daughter to sit beside her. "Then you now understand," the Queen said softly. Zalari lowered her head. "Why did you never tell anyone? Why hide the truth?" The Queen sighed deeply. "Because the Council didn't want the truth. They wanted peace. They wanted silence. They thought the people would fear the humans if they knew what they were truly capable of. But we owe them," Zalari said. "We owe him." "Yes," the Queen whispered. "More than you know." She looked out the window again. Her voice grew distant. 22 years ago, our world was on the edge of destruction. The enemy had broken our defense lines. They landed troops on our soil. I was pregnant with you, and I was trapped. Zalari's eyes widened. "You were there?" The Queen nodded slowly. "They were going to kill me. I had no guards left. The palace was falling. And then a human ship entered orbit. It wasn't part of our fleet. No one called it. No one expected it." She smiled faintly. "It was Jack's unit. Special Command Team Theta 9. Only 7 humans." "7?" Zalari gasped. "Only 7? "Yes," Salira said. "And they fought like 1,000. The Queen continued the story. They dropped from orbit in fire pods. Jack led the charge. He broke through enemy lines. His armor burned. He was wounded again and again, but he never stopped." Zalari listened with wide eyes. "By the time they reached me," the Queen whispered, "only Jack was still standing. The others had fallen. He carried me out with his bare arms. My blood was on his chest. Your heartbeat was still weak in my womb." Zalari's hands shook. "Then why did we treat him like nothing?" Queen Selira looked sad. Because the council feared Earth. They said humans would ask for power if the people knew their strength. So they made me sign a silence pact. We erased their names from the records. Jack agreed. He didn't want fame. He only wanted to go home. Zalari stood up, full of anger now. That's not right. He should be honored. Yes, the Queen said softly. But now, you understand? Zalari took a deep breath. Her voice shook. I mocked him, Mother, in front of everyone. I laughed at the man who saved you, who saved me. The Queen stood and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. It is not shameful to be wrong, my daughter. It is shameful to stay blind. You see him now. That's what matters. The next day, Zalari waited near the garden, where Jack often walked after his training. This time she wore a simple cloak, without her crown or jewelry. She didn't want to speak as a princess. She wanted to speak as a person. Jack arrived on time, calm as ever. He noticed her and nodded politely. Princess, Zalari raised a hand. Please, just call me Zalari. Jack raised an eyebrow, surprised. I came to say something, she continued, voice steady but soft. I was wrong. About you, about your people. I judged you without knowing. Jack stayed silent. I saw the records, she added. I know what you did for my mother, for me. And I'm sorry. Jack's face didn't change, but his voice was gentle. You're not the first to judge what you don't understand. She looked down. You must hate us. He shook his head. No, I never hated Velthora. I fought for it. She looked into his eyes. Why? Jack turned toward the trees. Because innocent lives were at stake. Because I had the power to help. That's enough reason. They stood in silence for a while. Then Jack reached into a small pouch and took out something wrapped in cloth. He handed it to her. She unwrapped it and gasped. It was an old Velthorian royal medal, cracked but clean. Her mother's royal crest. She gave this back to me after the war, Jack said. Covered in blood. I kept it as a reminder. Zalari clutched the medal tightly. I don't deserve this. Jack shook his head. Maybe not yet, but you're learning. He turned to walk away. Thank you, she said softly. He paused and looked back. Don't thank me, he said. Live better. That's enough. Then he walked off into the garden, leaving her alone with the medal and the truth. That night, Zalari stood on her balcony again, but this time, she wasn't proud or mocking. She was thoughtful. The stars above seemed brighter. The word Terra now had weight in her heart. She looked down at the medal in her hand. Tomorrow, the peace summit would continue. Tomorrow, the other nobles would still laugh and joke. But Zalari had changed, and she would make sure others did too. The days on Velthora passed slowly after Princess Zalari learned the truth. She no longer laughed at the human warrior. She no longer saw him as weak or strange. Now she watched Commander Jack Raynor with quiet eyes and a heavy heart. She wanted to know more, not just about his strength in war, but about the man himself, the one who chose to fight, save lives, and disappear without asking for anything in return. What kind of soul lived behind those silent eyes? One evening, Zalari visited the palace's healing chambers. They were quiet, peaceful places with soft light and warm air. Many guests came here to relax their minds and bodies. She had heard a rumor that Jack visited the chambers every night. She waited behind a tall energy curtain. Soon, she heard the soft sound of boots. Jack entered, alone, like always. He removed his armor piece by piece and sat on the healing bench. The machine scanned his body, showing old scars and fresh bruises. His left side had deep marks. His right shoulder was still red and healing. Zalari's breath caught in her throat. She had never seen a body like his before, marked by pain, not decorated by beauty. She stepped out. Jack turned, surprised, but said nothing. "I'm not here to mock," she said quickly. "I know," Jack replied calmly. She walked closer, eyes on the glowing scan. "Your injuries? They're still healing?" He nodded. "Old wounds take time. Some never really heal." She looked into his face. "How many battles have you fought?" Jack looked away. "Too many." She sat beside him, unsure what to say. The silence stretched. Then she asked, "Do you ever regret it?" Jack thought for a moment. "No, but I do get tired." "Tired of war?" He shook his head. "Tired of being feared or forgotten." Those words struck her like lightning. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Our people. We chose silence over truth." Jack nodded. "It's not the first time." She stared at his hands, strong, rough, but steady. Then she asked something. "Bold? Do humans ever cry?" Jack smiled faintly. "We do. Not always in front of others. But yes, we cry." She looked down. "I thought crying was weakness." He shook his head gently. "Crying is memory. Pain reminds us we're alive." The next day, Zalari joined him in the training garden. "I want to learn," she said. Jack raised an eyebrow. "Learn what?" "To fight. Like you." He paused. "Why?" "Because I grew up behind walls. I want to understand what you went through." He studied her for a moment. Then he handed her a practice staff. They began, Edo. First, she was clumsy. Her strikes were slow, her balance weak, but Jack was patient. He showed her how to stand, how to breathe, how to move with purpose. Hours passed. Zalari fell many times, but she always stood back up. Jack said nothing, but deep down, he respected her effort. After the session, they sat under the tall trees. She wiped sweat from her forehead. "You didn't go easy on me. You asked to learn. Real lessons don't come easy." She smiled for the first time in days. Then she said, "My people think power comes from beauty or status. But I think real power comes from surviving pain." Jack nodded. "Pain shapes us, but how we carry it, that's what defines us." That night, Jack stood alone near the palace walls, looking up at the stars. Zalari found him again. "Do you miss Earth?" she asked. He nodded. "Every day." "Tell me about it," she said. He smiled softly. "Blue skies, oceans that go on forever, forests filled with music, and storms. Real storms, wild and loud." "It sounds beautiful," she said. "It is," Jack replied. "But it's also hard. Earth isn't easy. That's why humans grow strong." She walked beside him in silence. Then she asked, "Why did you come back here after all this time?" He looked at her. "For closure, for truth. And because your mother asked." Zalari's eyes widened. "She asked you personally?" He nodded. "Through a message. Said the galaxy needed a reminder." She whispered, "A reminder of what?" Jack turned to her fully. "That humans may be quiet, but we don't forget." The following day, the palace held a small event for the delegates. Music played, drinks flowed, nobles talked. Zalari stood by Jack's side, ignoring the whispers. One noble, a tall creature with silver eyes, approached them. "Ah, the human shadow. Still following the stars, are you?" Jack gave a polite nod. "Still walking under them, yes." The noble laughed. "Tell me, is it true humans once fought with fire and sticks?" Jack nodded again. "It's true." "We still do, when needed," the noble snorted. "Savages!" Zalari stepped forward. "Careful," she said coldly. That savage once saved this entire palace." The noble blinked. "What are you talking about?" She looked around. Many eyes were on them now. "I speak of the battle that none of you know, because we chose silence. But not anymore." She turned to Jack. "Would you allow me to share your story?" Jack hesitated. Then he nodded once. Later that night, Zeleri stood before a private group of nobles and young royals. She told the full story. The war, the fall of the palace, the 7 humans who arrived without asking for reward, the blood, the courage, the sacrifice. She spoke with emotion, with truth, with fire. And when she finished, the room was silent. Jack stood behind her, eyes closed. Not for praise, but for peace. When they walked out, Zeleri whispered, "How do you carry it all?" Jack looked at her. "I don't carry it alone," he said. She smiled gently. "I'll help." That night, Jack gave her something else. A small hollow crystal. She activated it. It showed the last message of a fallen human soldier. "We don't fight for glory. We fight for those who can't. If we fall, let our story remind others. Never let the strong silence the brave." Zeleri held the crystal to her heart. In the days that followed, she trained harder. She spoke openly about Earth. She defended those who were silent for too long. And Jack? He smiled a little more. The warrior was healing, not just his body, but his spirit. And it was the princess, once full of pride, who helped him. The grand hall of Velthora was filled with light and music. Aliens of many shapes and colors gathered in their finest robes and armor. Today was the second day of the Galactic Peace Summit, a chance for worlds to talk and make promises of peace. Princess Zeleri stood beside her mother, Queen Selira, watching the diplomats talk quietly. Many eyes still looked toward Commander Jack Raynor, some with curiosity, some with old doubt, but none with the mockery that had once filled the halls. Jack stood near the entrance, calm and watchful. His eyes scanned the room, always alert. The quiet warrior carried no weapons openly, but everyone knew he was ready if needed. Zeleri smiled slightly. The man who once was laughed at was now quietly respected. But peace was fragile. Suddenly, alarms rang through the palace, sharp, loud, and urgent. Guards shouted orders. The music stopped. Nobles froze. Queen Selira raised her hand. "Everyone stay calm and follow the guards to safe rooms." Zelari's heart beat fast. She looked at Jack. Jack's face was serious. "An attack," he said quietly. The doors burst, open. Masked figures in dark armor rushed inside, firing strange weapons that sparked and hummed. The palace guards quickly formed lines, but the attackers moved fast and brutal. "Assassins!" a guard yelled. "They want the queen!" Zeleri gasped. The queen stepped back toward the throne, surrounded by her personal guards. Jack moved without hesitation. He drew a hidden blade from under his cloak. The thin but sharp weapon gleamed in the light. Zeleri watched as Jack sprinted toward the attackers. The battle was sudden and fierce. Jack fought like a storm. He moved with speed no alien could match, blocking energy blasts with his shield, then closing to strike with his blade. Each motion was precise and deadly. An assassin lunged at him from behind, but Jack twisted and sliced, stopping the attack before it could land. Zeleri followed from a distance, trying to stay safe but unable to stop watching. Jack fought alone, protecting the queen as if his own life depended on it. A large explosion rocked the hall. Dust filled the air. Zeleri saw Jack thrown back. His armor cracked and bleeding from his shoulder, but he got up. He would not fall. The palace guards rallied. They pushed back the attackers, driving them out into the night. The queen was safe, thanks to Jack's bravery. Zeleri rushed to Jack's side. His breath was heavy. Blood seeped from his wounds. She knelt beside him. "Jack, you're hurt!" He smiled faintly. Just a scratch. I've had worse. Please, she said, her voice shaking. Let me help. Jack let her lift his arm. He didn't complain. In the healing chambers, medics worked quickly. Scifi stayed near Jack's side. She was filled with fear for the first time. How can you be so strong? She asked softly. Jack's eyes closed. I don't feel strong. I feel tired. Scifi took his hand. You saved the Queen. You saved us all. He opened his eyes and looked at her. We all fight for something, he said. I fought so others could live. Your wounds. Will you heal? She asked. Jack nodded. Slowly. But the scars, they never fully leave. Scifi swallowed her tears. I want to learn to be strong like you. Jack smiled weakly. You already are. News of the attack spread quickly. The council called an emergency meeting. Scifi stood before the nobles. We face new threats, she said. But we also have new hope. Jack Raynor is not just a warrior. He is a shield for Velthora. Some nobles whispered, surprised by her words. She continued, We must stand together. Trust those who fight for us, even if they come from worlds we do not fully understand. The Queen nodded proudly. Jack watched silently from the back. Days passed. Jack's wounds slowly healed. Scifi visited him often. One afternoon, they walked together in the palace gardens. Why do they want to kill the Queen? She asked. Jack looked serious. Some fear peace. They want war and chaos. Scifi frowned. But peace is our future, Jack smiled. Then we must protect it. Suddenly they heard a soft noise behind the bushes. A small child appeared, holding a broken toy. Jack knelt and smiled gently. Lost? He asked. The child nodded. Scifi felt a warm feeling in her heart. See, she said. You protect not only the crown, but also the smallest lives. Jack looked at her. That is why I fight. That evening, Scifi sat alone, thinking. She looked at the medal Jack gave her. She understood now. Strength was not in power alone. It was in courage, kindness, and the will to protect. She vowed to stand by Jack's side, not as a princess, but as a friend. The healing chambers were quiet, bathed in soft light. Commander Jack Raynor lay on a comfortable bed, his breathing steady but slow. The medics had done their best to treat his wounds, but the deep cuts and burns needed time to mend. Princess. Scifi sat beside him, holding his hand gently. She had never felt so close to someone before. The pride she once carried had melted into respect and something deeper, admiration. Jack's eyes fluttered open. Scifi, he said quietly. She smiled softly. You're awake. He tried to sit up but winced. I'm sorry. I don't want to be a burden. You're not, she said firmly. You saved the Queen, and all of us. Jack looked at her. I only did what was right. But you did more than that, Scifi said. You showed us all the true meaning of strength. He smiled faintly and closed his eyes again. The next day, the throne room was filled with nobles and diplomats. The mood was serious but hopeful. News of the attack and Jack's bravery had spread, changing many opinions. Queen Scifi stood tall on her throne. Her voice echoed through the room. We have been wrong to hide the truth about the humans, she said. Their courage saved this palace, and their honor saved our people. She paused, then nodded toward Jack. Commander Jack Raynor, you have earned more than thanks. You have earned our deepest respect, the nobles murmured. Some bowed their heads, others clapped quietly. Jack stepped forward, still weak but proud. He bowed deeply. Thank you, Your Majesty, he said. I fought for peace, not praise. Princess. Scifi walked beside him. Today, we will change how Velthora sees humanity, she said. No longer as brutes, but as warriors, friends, and protectors. The crowd erupted in applause. Later, Zalari visited Jack in the healing chambers. She brought him a gift, a small box wrapped in velvet. Inside was a silver pendant shaped like a shield, the symbol of Velthora's royal guard. "It is an honor," she said. "We want you to wear it, to show you belong here." Jack looked touched. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Zalari smiled. "Just accept it." She fastened the pendant around his neck. Jack looked at her. "Why do you trust me?" she laughed softly. "Because I saw who you really are, a warrior with a kind heart." They sat in silence, sharing a quiet moment. The following days were filled with change. Velthorian schools began teaching about Earth's heroes. Young nobles listened eagerly to stories of the human warriors. The old fears and jokes slowly faded. The council started inviting humans to join diplomatic talks with respect. Zalari and Jack grew closer. They trained together, talked about their worlds, and dreamed of a peaceful future. One evening, Zalari asked, "Will you stay on Velthora?" Jack looked at the stars. "For now, yes. There is still work to do." She smiled. "We'll stand together." Before Jack left the palace to return to his ship, the queen held a small ceremony. She placed a golden cloak on his shoulders. "With this cloak, we make you honor guard of the crown," she said. "No alien has ever received this title before." Jack bowed deeply. "I will protect Velthora with all my strength." Zalari watched as he boarded his ship. She held the medal he had once given her tightly. She whispered, "Thank you, Jack. You changed my world." Months later, stories of the human warrior spread across the galaxy. A man who fought not for glory, but for peace. A warrior who earned respect by his actions and heart. And a princess who learned that true strength comes from understanding and honor.